Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and in today's crochet along we are going to be making our Tilly the Turtle pattern. This is a super fun low sew pattern. I love this pattern and I cannot wait to share it with you. So let's grab some supplies and we can jump into it. So for today's Tilly, I'm going to be using my Premier Basics chenille tie-dye yarn. And this one is in the color Tropic Twist. I love using this yarn for the turtle because I feel like the turtle could be literally any color. And then for the main body, like the head and the fins, we're going to be using this Honey Bunny. It's just in kind of like it's not a pure white. I don't like using pure white. It's like a light beige. So we're going to be using that. For yarn, we're also going to be needing some cotton yarn, black and white, for embroidering our eyes. Now, if you don't want to embroider your eyes, I would suggest using 12 to 14 millimeter eyes for this one, depending on the look you're going for. But you will need a size 4 weight cotton yarn. I'm going to be using my 5.5 millimeter crochet hook from Furls, one of my favorites. We're going to need a darning needle, some scissors, a stitch marker, fabric pins. We'll need some fiber fill, and that is all we need. So let's jump into the first step. All right, so to begin, we're going to start off with our belly plate, and we're going to start off with our color A yarn. So whatever you are going to be using for the shell of your turtle, that's what we're going to be using here. Now I have a knot in mine, so I'm just going to break that off. And we're going to be needing our hook, obviously. So to start off here, I'm going to make a magic ring. And you should know how to make a magic ring, how to crochet within the round before you complete this project, because I'm not going to be showing you that. We have lots of tutorials if you want to learn those skills. So once we have our magic ring here, we are going to place 8 single crochets inside the ring. So making sure we're crocheting over both of these strands, we'll make 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I always like to kind of pre-pull 5, 6, 7, and 8, and do that final pull there. So there is our magic ring. And I'm just going to place my stitch marker. Now I personally like to use a scrap strand of yarn, but you use whatever it is that you like to use. Moving on to round 2, we're going to do an increase round. So an increase is 2 single crochets in each stitch. So we're going to go around, so 1, and then back into that same stitch, we'll place another single crochet. And we're going to do this all the way around for a total stitch count of 16. All right, moving on to round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase, so 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. And we're going to repeat that combination a total of 8 times. So single crochet, increase, and your stitch count at the end of round 3 should be 24. All right, now moving on to round 4, we are going to do the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, and an increase. And again, we're going to repeat this a total of 8 times as well. 1, 2, an increase. And your stitch count should be 32 at this point. So at this point, at the end of round 4, we are going to be changing colors. So I'm just going to put this down and I'm going to grab my other yarn, the Honey Bunny, in that beige color. Find my center here. Now what we're going to do is we're not going to fully finish off this last stitch of round 4. We're just going to go to this point where we have 2 loops on our hook. Then we're going to grab our new yarn, pull that through to finish off that last single crochet of round 4 and change our color at the same time. I'm just going to make a knot here with the 2 tails just to secure that. And we are done right now with the colorful yarn, so I'm going to cut that. And now we have our new color attached and we are ready to move on to round 5. Now round 5 is going to be in 2 parts. It's going to be in part A and part B. Now this is because part A is really skinny. It's just a row of slip stitches. And because of that, when you're counting rounds in amigurumi, you can't really see that round. So I count it as 5A and then we'll do 5B as well, if that makes any sense. Sorry if that's confusing, but we'll go through it together right now. So for round 5A, we are going to be working in the back loop of our single crochets with a slip stitch. Now you don't want to make really tight slip stitches. You just kind of want to, they're not too loose, not too tight, because you don't want holes either. So into our back loop, insert our hook, oops, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through. And we're just going to go around. I'm not doing it too loose, but I'm also not doing it too tight. And we're just going to do 32 slip stitches in the back loop only of round 4. All right, so that is what we're looking like right now. Now moving on to round 5B, we are still going to be working in the back loop of this slip stitch round, and we are going to be doing the combination single crochet 3 in the back loop. So single crochet 1, 2, 3, and an increase stitch in the back loop. And we're going to repeat that combination a total of 8 times. 3 and an increase. And you should have a stitch count of 40. 1, 2, 3, increase. And there we are. So you can see that nice color change there. It's a lot cleaner on the edge when you do it that way. So that is round 5 with the 2 parts. Now for our last round of the belly plate section here, we're going to do single crochet 40. And now we're working through both loops again like normal, not just the back loop. Going forward, we're just going to be doing the normal single crochets from here on out. So I'm going to finish these single crochet 40 off camera, and I will meet you back here for the next step. All right, so there is the belly plate completed. I'm just going to take my stitch marker out, and all I'm going to do here is just slip stitch to the next stitch, pull through. We don't need a super long tail here just because we're going to attach this to the shell with on the shell side, if that makes sense. So this is just going to be tucked in side like that, So that is all done, and now we can move on to the shell. All right, for the shell, we're going to be going back to our colorful yarn. So whatever it is that you used for this section of the belly plate, we're going to use again for our shell. So for the shell, we are going to start off with a magic ring, and inside our magic ring, we are going to place 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And place our stitch marker. For round 2, we're going to do an increase round, so 2 single crochets in each stitch around, and you should have a stitch count of 16 at the end of round 2. Moving on to round 3, we're going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase, so 2 single crochets in 1. We'll repeat this 8 times for a stitch count of 24. All right, moving on to round 4, we're going to do single crochet 24. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. For round 5, we're going to do the combination single crochet 2, 1, 2, and an increase. And we're going to repeat that 8 times for a stitch count of 32. All right, for round 6, we are going to do single crochet 32. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around again. All right, now for round 7, we're going to do the combination single crochet 3. Just make sure. So single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3, and an increase. And we're going to repeat this combination a total of 8 times again, and you should end up with a stitch count of 40. All right, and moving on for rounds 8 and 9, so 2 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 40. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. I'm going to complete these 2 rounds off camera, and I will meet you back here at the end of round 9. Do not cut your yarn because we are going to attach it to our belly plate. All right, this is what we're looking like now with our shell all done. And what I'm going to do here first, I'm going to just remove my stitch marker, and I'm going to grab my belly plate. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to sew, or we're going to crochet the belly plate and the shell together as one solid piece. So what the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we have bad side to bad side. So the bad side, where all your yarn tails are of your belly plate, should be facing the bad side of your shell. Now I kind of like to go where you ended on both sides. So we ended here and we're ending here. That's where I'm going to start. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to be working through both sides of our project. So first we're going to do is insert our hook into the next stitch of our shell using the same yarn that we have attached still. We haven't changed anything. Next, we're going to go through the first stitch of the belly plate like this. So you should have one stitch with your shell, one stitch with your belly plate. We're going to yarn over, pull through both those, and place a single crochet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to skip a stitch. So we're going to skip this stitch and skip the exact same stitch that goes across the way. And into the next stitch, we're going to place 5 double crochets. So yarn over, we're skipping these ones. We're going to go into this stitch and this stitch. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Now I'm going right back into that same stitch with my second double crochet, a third, a fourth, and one more, still in the exact same stitch. I lost my stitch there, that's okay. There we go. So now we have done our 5 double crochets in that one stitch. Now I'm just going to pull this a little bit because we don't want to get any stitches lost, because sometimes this can bury our stitches. So there's the stitch right here that's next, and there's the stitch right there. We're going to skip those stitches and into the next stitch. So this guy, and it's much easier to see on this one. So I'm going into this one. I skipped this stitch here. I'm going into this one, and we're going to place a single crochet. So there's one scallop all done. Now we're going to repeat that. So we're in this stitch here. We're going to skip this one and into the next stitch. So we're going to go into this one and this one. Just take your time with this. There's no rush. We are placing 5 double crochets again. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm just going to pull, make sure I don't miss anything. We're skipping the next stitch, and into the stitch after that, we are placing a single crochet. All right, and we're just repeating that all the way around. Skip the stitch and 5 double crochets into the next. All right, so there are 3 of our scallops done. Now there's going to be a total of 10 scallops. I'm going to go and complete up to 8. So finish 8. So we've already done 3. So we have 5 more scallops to do. Stop there and we'll meet back here and we will do the next step before we finish up those scallops. All right, so this is what we're looking like right now. So I have my 8 scallops so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And there's the bottom. Now before we finish our last 2 scallops, we are just going to stuff because the hole's already getting small. So just going to take my fiber fill, fluff it up a little bit. I always like to fluff my fiber fill just so I know it just gets compacted back down, but I feel like it makes a difference. So I like to focus my stuffing for this one into the top shell, and obviously we want to push it all the way back. So just add little bits at a time. I'm just sweeping my yarn. Just want to make sure that my shell is all even. I was getting a little lopsided there. You should have most of the rounding on the shell, and then you're going to have just a little bit of a round on the bottom. That's okay. That one's kind of hard to avoid. And then obviously just want to make sure all your yarn tails are inside. There. And then all I'm going to do is just finish off my last 2 scallops. So I should have a total of 10. It's always harder to crochet once you stuffed, so it's going to be even more difficult because this is already a challenging pattern. So I'm just going to go in with my 5 double crochets. And I'm just going to slip stitch here. And I'm going to cut my tail and pull that through to secure that off. And there is our turtle shell all done. All right, so we are going to move on to our head next. So the very first thing, we're going to grab our color B yarn or whatever it is that you used for the outside of your belly plate. So this piece right here, that's the color you're going to use for your head. So first things first, we're going to make a magic ring. And inside our magic ring, we are going to place 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm just going to place my stitch marker here. Moving on to round 2, we are going to do an increase round. So we are going to place 2 single crochets in each stitch around. 1, 2, and you should have 12 stitches at the end of round 2. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. For round 3, just going to pull that a little bit. For round 3, we're doing the combination single crochet 1 and an increase. And we're going to repeat that a total of 6 times, single crochet and an increase. And you should have 18 stitches at the end of round 3. Now moving on for rounds 4 and 5, we are going to do single crochet 18. So just 2 rounds of single crochet 18. 2, 3. I will complete these 2 rounds off camera and I'll meet you back here for round 6. All right, moving on to round 6 now, we are going to be doing the combination single crochet 1 and an increase. And we're going to only repeat that 2 times. So one more time, single crochet 1 and increase. Next, we're going to do a single crochet 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to do that combination single crochet 1 and increase 2 times again. So that was first time, and this is the second time. And then we're going to end off with single crochet 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now moving on for rounds 7, 8, and 9, so that's 3 rounds, we are going to do single crochet 22, which is the stitch count we should have at the end of round 6, which I didn't tell you, so I'm sorry about that. So you should have 22 stitches. And now for the next 3 rounds, we're going to do single crochet 22. I will finish these 3 rounds off camera, and then I'll meet you back here for round 10. All right, so moving on to round 10, we are going to do the combination single crochet 1 and a decrease. So for our decreases, we're going to go under the front loop of the front stitch of the first stitch, the front loop of the second stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. We're going to repeat that single crochet decrease a total of 7 times. And after 7 times, you should have 1 stitch left, and we will just place a single crochet in that stitch. Now, before we move any further, if you are going to be placing safety eyes for this project, you are going to want to place them now. I'm going to be embroidering eyes, so we're going to do our eyes after the head is completed. So place your safety eyes if that's the route you're going with, and we're going to stuff. So because I'm not doing safety eyes, I'm just going to go straight to stuffing. Now the little increase sections that we did in round 6, those are going to be our little cheeks. They're very subtle, but you can definitely tell the shape kind of goes out on this side. So that's going to be your side of your head. So if you're placing your eyes, you're going to want them to sit with the cheeks here on the side, and your eyes will be on the front. If you're placing safety eyes, you're going to place them on rounds between rounds 5 and 6, and you should have about 5 stitches in between the eyes with those cheeks on the side. So I'm just stuffing a little bit more. And then we're going to grab our hook here, and we will finish off our last round here of our head. My stuffing's kind of shooting out here. So for the last round, we are going to just do a decrease stitch 7 times. So decrease, so just straight decreases 7 times, and then at the end you'll have 1 single crochet, same as the last round. So decrease all the way around, and we should be ending with 8 stitches at the end of round 11. So there's 7, and then we just have 1 single crochet here. Take our stitch marker out, and I'm just going to place a slip stitch. And I'm going to cut my yarn. And then I'm just going to pull that through. Now I just want to do a little bit more stuffing now that the hole is smaller, because the stuffing just stays in way easier that way. Here we go. Now I'm just going to take another crochet hook, just a smaller one here, and all I'm going to do is go under the front loop of each stitch and pull through my tail, and this is going to gather up those last 8 stitches and make this hole closed. Here we go. And then I also just like to place a knot here just for extra security, I guess. Just a simple knot. And I am going to leave this yarn tail attached because this is what we're going to use to sew on our head to our body. So there is our head all done. All right, so once we have our head all completed, we are going to start placing our eyes. If you don't want to embroider and you did your safety eyes, then you can just skip this step. Just go to the face shaping portion of this video. But if you want to embroider, stick right here with me. We're going to need our darning needle, and we're going to need, I just cut a really long strand of black yarn. It's a lot of inches, so who knows, but it's a lot. You want a good chunk of yarn. And then for our white, we probably just want like about 16 inches or so is probably enough. And we're going to start with our black. So I'm just going to get that ready here, if I can get it on my needle. There we go. Now, first off, I'm going to take my fabric pins here and I'm going to mark off where I want. So first you want to pick the front, where you want the front to be. And again, we want to make sure our cheeks are on the side. And where we're going to be placing our eyes is on rounds 5 and 6 of the head. So I'm just going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's round 5. I'm just going to roughly place a pin here at the top of round 5 and into the bottom of round 6. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now we want about 5 stitches in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that actually worked out well. So now I just want to make sure that I'm centered in between my 2 cheeks here, which it looks like I am. So that placement worked out pretty well. Now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab my black yarn with my darning needle and I'm going to insert on the side of the head to this top point here that we marked out. I'm going to take my pin out. I'm going to pull that through. Oopsies. I have a knot. Okay, sorry about that. I had to get that knot out. So all I did was I just pushed it through and I'm just pulling it through till I have just a tiny tail at the end. And then I'm going to go down where my green pin is here and back up to the top again. Take my pin out and pull that through like that. So there is one round of our eye. Now we want to do this about 8 times. So I'm going to keep going back, down, and up. And all I like to do here is I just like to direct where my yarn is going to go. So I want this one to kind of be on this side, and then the next one I want to be on the other side. On this side, so I'm just going to direct it over. This always pulls some stuffing, which is very frustrating, but just part of it. So there's 3, and I'm just going to continue until I've done this a total of 8 times. All right, so there's 8 times. Now I'm just going to go down one more time and insert my needle into the bottom. And I'm going to push it over to my other side here and at the top. So you should have now at this point a total of 9 strands on this side. And sometimes I just like to put my needle under and just pull them so they're kind of all similar. And then I'm going to just repeat the process here on the other side. So 8 times on this side. Okay, so there's 8 on that side. I'm just going to pull that out, and we're going to do one more, and then I'm just going to push that to the other side to meet up with where we started. Now we are going to be using this black yarn again, so I'm not going to tie it off. There are our eyes just as they are, just black for now. Next, we're going to grab our white, put that on our needle. Same thing, we're going to insert on the side, go to the top, and pull through so you have just a little tail for tying off. Now we want to go down and back up again. And we want to direct this strand of yarn to sit on the very outside of our eye, like that. Next, we're going to take our needle here and we're going to insert it right in the center of the eye between rounds 5 and 6. And we're going to push it over to the other eye. And this is going to create just a little eye highlight there. Don't pull it too tight because you do want to still be able to see it. And then we're going to repeat that same process on this side. So first we'll do the side highlight. And the center. And I'm going to just push this over to where I started with my white yarn. Here we go. Now we are done with our white yarn, so I'm just going to tie a little knot. And I don't want to pull too tight on my knot because it will pull your yarn in and it may get hidden in our fluffy yarn. So just a light knot, and I'm just going to cut this down to get this out of my way. And now I'm going to go back in with the black yarn for one more optional detail. If you'd like to give your turtle some eyelashes, I'm going to go back and do that. So I'm just going back up to the front top spot that we've been in the whole time. Pull that back through here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go down one round and about a stitch to a half a stitch away. Right there, I'm going to push this back over to the other side and repeat that on the other side as well. So that's what that looks like. It's very subtle, but it adds a lot. And I'm going to push this back over. You just want to make sure you're in the same hole. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to just cut this black yarn. And I'm just keeping it still attached to my needle because now we are going to do our face shaping. And all that's going to do is just bring in our eyes a little bit. So to start our face shaping, we're going to just insert into the top section and push all the way across to the top section of the other eye. Pull that through, but not all the way. You want to have 2 strands, one on each eye. Since this one's still attached, we're just going to do this one first. We're going to go down into the bottom of this eye and push it down to the bottom of our head. And we want to direct this piece of yarn on the inside of our eye. And then I'm just going to place my hook on my needle on the other side and repeat that. And I'm actually going to offset my yarn here because this section here is going to be hidden when we sew it to the body. So, and it's always a little bit stronger, holds a little bit better when it's offset. So we're just going to put that on the inside. And all we're going to do here is pull, and that's going to bring in your eyes. The more you pull, the more it's going to bring it in. So I'm just going to bring this in a little bit. So there we go. So just pull it until you're happy with where the eyes are. It really does not need a lot. It's just a little tiny change that kind of gives you this bridge of the nose here that we want, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And obviously you want it to be the same on both. Like that. And then I'm just going to make a knot here. And I'm also going to make a knot with this other black yarn that we did everything else with. I'm just going to cut this, grab a hook here, and I'm just going to pull and weave in these ends here. And there is our eyes and face shaping all completed. All right, so now that we have our head all completed, we're going to attach it to our shell. Now our head is going to sit on the front. So this is the back of the shell here. It's going to sit on the front, and we're going to put it right here where we did our color changing, because there's kind of like a little shelf there that we don't want to see. So all I've done here is I've just put my yarn tail on here on my darning needle, and I'm just going to roughly place this head here like this. Now, I personally like to just use a knitting needle, which can be hard to show on here, but this one's bent for some reason. Here's the one I was looking for. So all I'm going to do here is just put this straight through the body and the head so that it stays where I want it to stay. And that's looking pretty good. So once I'm happy with the placement of that, I'm just going to start sewing this on. And we want it to sit directly against the back here. So it should sit right against our scallops. There we go. Now I'm just going to take this needle out and just make sure that there's nowhere that I need to kind of add a couple extra stitches. I'm just going to push my needle to the back here. There we go. Now the only other thing I want to do here is just take the yarn tail from my shell, and I'm just going to send that up to this tail that we just did. So that I can tie them off together. So I'm just going to tie a knot here. And then I'm going to just push this down into the shell. And then I'm going to put this guy back on and do the same thing. Just push this down into the shell somewhere. They don't have to be at the same spot. And I'm just going to cut this right as close as I can and just weave that last little tail in. So there is our back, and there is what the top looks like. Next, we're going to work up our tail. So we're going to use our yarn that we use for the head, and we're going to start off with our magic ring. And inside the magic ring, we are going to place 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and pull that. For round 2, we are going to do the combination single crochet 1 and an increase, and we're going to repeat that one more time, and you should have 6 stitches at the end of round 2. Now moving on to round 3, which is our final round of the tail. This is a super quick part. We're just doing single crochet 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just pull our stitch marker out. I'm just going to place a slip stitch here, cut a strand long enough to sew this guy on. And I'm going to cut my center pull tail, like my magic ring tail, pretty short. We don't want to stuff the tail, so just keep it as short as possible. And there's our little tail. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our darning needle here. We're going to pinch this guy in half, and we're going to sew this edge together. So we're going to stick our needle through both sides, and we are going to continue that all the way along the edge. So just 3 stitches, and then I always just like to put a little knot here on the end. And there is our tail all done. All right, so I just grabbed my body and my head here, and we are going to attach our tail. So our tail is going to sit right along the edge of our belly plate here. And it's going to sit so that the point, or round 1 of our tail, is pointing directly towards our head. And I'm just going to place a couple pins here. Just make sure that I'm happy with that placement. And then once I'm happy, I'm just going to sew this on. There we go. Now I also like to tie down the tail. See how it's like kind of flopping out? I like to keep it up in position. So all I do is I'm just going to just bring you in a little bit, put my needle down here, and I'm going to push it up right here into round 5, just like this. Now I'm going to see where this lines up, which is about here, and I'm going to stick my needle through that section, and then I'm going to push it back in to the same area back in the body, and I'm going to push this to the back shell. And I'm just going to leave this strand here because I like to tie off my stuff with other things. So once we put the little fins on, then I will tie those to this. But that is our tail all done. Now the very last thing that we are going to do is the fins. So we need to make 4 of these. They're super simple. So we're going to start off with a magic ring in our color B yarn or whatever yarn you used for the head. And inside our magic ring, we're going to place 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm just going to pull that and place a stitch marker. Now for round 2, we are going to be doing an increase round. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. 1, 2. So you should have a total of 12 stitches. Here we go. I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm going to just take the time right now to cut this strand about the length of what your circle is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pinch this in half so it's like a little taco. And we are going to insert our hook into this first stitch and across the way into the last stitch. And we're going to yarn over, pull through, and make a slip stitch. We're going to do that all the way across. So you're going to do it a total of 6 times because there's 12 stitches. This does not need to be stuffed. Here we go. Yarn over, pull through, and I'm just going to cut a strand for sewing and pull that through. And there is our little fin. So we're going to need 4 of these. So go back, make 3 more of these, and then we will meet back here to sew them on. All right, so I have made all 4 of my fins here, and now I can sew them on. So I'm just going to grab my body, and I'm going to grab some fabric pins here. Now we want to place the fins on the last round of our belly plate. So that would be round 6 of our belly plate. We want the curve here. So where we slip stitch together, this curve, that's going to face up on the top, and it's going to face down on the bottom, like this. So up right here and down right here. Now we want our fins to be about 2 to 3 stitches away from the head. So I'm just going to roughly pin this there. And then this one's going to be about 2 to 3 stitches away from the tail that we put in. So it should look a lot like that. And then once you're happy with the placement, I'm just going to grab my darning needle. And I'm going to just sew this right on. And then I'm just going to push this back to the back of my shell here. And then once I'm finished sewing on this fin here, I'm going to meet up these 2 yarn tails. I actually have my tail one still as well. and I will just tie a knot and tie those together. I just like to put extra security on all my pieces, especially with the chenille yarn, because I do feel like it kind of semi falls apart a lot easier. Your tails may come out easier. So I just like to have that extra security. I don't usually sell my stuffies, but if I did, I know that they're going to last. So I'm just going to push this through back here. There we go. And then I'm just going to tie these together. And I'm just going to cut that. And just weave those tails in. Here we go. Now I'm going to just repeat on the exact same thing on the other side. I'm just going to sew on these other two fins here. They should sit in the exact same spot as the other side. And once I'm done that, I will meet you back here. All right, and that is our Tilly the Turtle all finished. I absolutely love this yarn that I chose. It is so beautiful. It's very beachy and just feels so fun. And that's what I love about this pattern. You can just use whatever you want really for the shell and the belly plate, and it just turned out perfect. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this pattern. It's one of my favorites, and I just hope you enjoyed it. So let us know in the comments below what you thought, if there's any other patterns you're hoping to see in the future. Otherwise, we are so appreciative of you guys being here. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!